progress can be measured generally by what the stats say. For example, only 4% of all doctors are black. That's one part of the story. But examples of prominent physicians tell a different tale. Your dream is possible. Just look at where we started.
I was born right in the middle of the civil rights movement.
The 60s, the struggle was real.
You could see the redlining that happened with how people were strategically sold real estate. Because my neighborhood, we had the one bus where all the African Americans were on this one bus and everybody else was on the other buses.
In 1967, unrest and dissatisfaction spilled over in Detroit. The burning city reflecting a fiery desire in black people everywhere to have full access to the American dream.
I have a dream.
It was a dream of equal access to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness.
It was barely conscionable to think that you could even become a physician. So as much as I was going around telling people I'm going to be a doctor, I know there were plenty of people in my community saying, oh yeah, right, dream on, sister. Your best option is maybe a nurse and a teacher if you're lucky, because that was pretty much as high as we could go.
She rose.
You have to keep your eye on the prize.
Dr. Patricia Wilkerson Uddyback, in leadership at the Detroit Medical Center, the first black female chief of the emergency department at Harper University Hospital, and the first vice president of academic and community affairs for the Detroit Medical Center. She had challenges, but she worked hard.
That kind of fortitude and work ethic was embedded in me. I mean, I saw it real time. So, you know, I wasn't going to let racism interfere with my career. That which does not kill you causes you to be stronger.
Dr. Uddyback is in a position of strength, overseeing the med students and residents coming through the DMC, and so she can make them stronger. You actually have a really unique role in that you're training the next generation of physicians here at the DMC. So how do you see that parallel between diversity and health outcomes kind of coming together, converging in what you do?
So this is really a great time, and this is where the part of my job that I just really get so excited about, because there's so much opportunity to shape these minds. So, you know, you could call it cultural competency. The big word now is social determinants of health.
What does that term even mean, social determinants of health? Having a place to live, transportation, being able to exercise in a safe place.
I know when I'm talking to certain African American patients around the holidays, okay, you know, when you made your greens for New Year's, did you put a big ham hock in there?
Or was it turkey?
Or was it turkey? Now, if you are, let's say, an Arab American physician, you may not know that dynamic because you didn't live it. They have their vices too, as does everyone. So, you know, we have to begin to look at everybody from this community that we serve.
Obviously, you can't become part of a culture you're not from, but you can begin to learn the nuances, and that stuff can be taught.
We'll continue to nurture the next generation and offer those opportunities so that, you know, it doesn't end with us.
And it won't end with her. Dr. Wilkerson Uddyback also started the Medical Mentors Pipeline. For 7 years, students who want to get into med school get to shadow doctors at the DMC for 6 weeks. And we want to let folks know that this is possible for you, no matter where you come from.
Is that program showing an increase in minority enrollees?
Yeah, there are more people who are coming through the pipeline, to use that exact term. But the reality is that even though if you look back 30 years ago, we're seeing many more blacks enrolling in medicine, the percentage of, say, black men is a much smaller percentage of the larger total of black medical students. So that is something that we're going to be talking about actually tomorrow, and is something that people like Dr. Uddyback and others are trying to address.
And anybody who can get into med school can also go into other fields and programs that might even pay more money and might be more rewarding sooner than the time it would take to study for medicine.
And that's absolutely true, but the difference is that black doctors, underrepresented minorities being in these positions means that there is probably going to be a better outcome for those who are minority, and that's what the research suggests.
Well, African Americans in medicine. It wasn't easy for the trailblazers who, of course, answered the call to heal even though they faced racism and doubt about their abilities. Is diversity in medicine getting any better? Fox 2's Hillary Golson takes a look.
We've spoken with black doctors about how to make medicine more diverse, and in doing so, the hope is that people will be healthier. But now I have to ask the tough question. Are med school admissions members getting candidates from diverse backgrounds? To get a candid response, I asked my mother. I hope you don't mind me saying your age.
It's always been a touchy subject for me. It's still a touchy subject.
You're 70, I'm just gonna say it. Dr. Denise Gray was born in 1949. Detroit wasn't segregated by law, but it was segregated in fact.
My parents are working class parents, and we didn't just run to the emergency room or hospital or to a doctor's office. Those were rare occasions.
African Americans had real reason to be afraid of doctors and medicine. In 1932, the Tuskegee experiment studied black men like they were guinea pigs, leaving hundreds of them untreated for 40 years. The study done by public health officials. Black trust in medicine, broken, especially for black men. But this can be changed, it can be repaired.
You have to pay now or pay later.
Dr. Gray graduated from high school at 16 and went on to be the chief resident at her radiology program at Harper. But it wouldn't be that easy.
It's kind of interesting when you're the chief resident chosen by a program. When you're done, you're told there's no room in the inn.
There would be room eventually. Dr. Gray became a diagnostic radiologist and faculty at Detroit Receiving Hospital and became the first black female fellow in the American College of Radiology for her hospital, an elite group.
They were 110% on it. And that's because the Detroit Receiving Physician has a dedication to be here. They could choose wherever they wanted to go for more money, but they wanted to save lives.
Trauma 1, so lots of stabbings and shootings. So she thought, why not study these things using x-rays?
Detailed sacroiliac joints demonstrate mild sclerosis,
Which hadn't been done in this way before. The Gun and Knife Club.
Yes. In other words, there are a lot of stabbings and gunshot wounds during a certain era. Frontal, lateral, and both are black projections.
The so-called Gun and Knife Club proved coming in with an emergency needed radiological attention.
It wasn't something that was studied in the way that I studied it, radiologically.
These days, as a retired physician, she sits on the admissions committee for the Wayne State Medical School, screening potential candidates a few years after the school admitted the fewest black candidates in its modern history. Since then, the numbers have improved. Are you getting a viable pool? Are you seeing candidates who are, to even consider, who are black American?
They're doing better, but it could be even better, especially black males, because they do have some unique problems in this society.
They do. Black men have the lowest life expectancy of any ethnic group in America. The CDC indicates this might be due to chronic illnesses like heart disease. And recent research out of California suggests the solution could be more black doctors to build back trust among this population.
I think we just need a better outreach, but they are there. And they would make excellent doctors.
The supposition here is that there are a lot of black people, especially black men, who just don't think this is for them.
Oh no, it's not that they don't think it's for them. It's crossed their minds various times, but they don't consider it within the realm of possibility. We must continue to put ourselves in a position where we can be seen and heard and let them know it's possible.
Dr. Kimberly Dawn Wisdom has a unique role in the Henry Ford Health System. As its Chief Diversity Officer, she acknowledges that we still have a ways to go in bridging the gaps in Black health outcomes. But she's also deeply involved in helping to turn those figures around. A passion for people in need she developed very early in life.
One day I came back to my room, my dorm room at the camp, and my clothes were dumped out of the drawer onto the ground.
I was very disturbed and wondered what was going on.
I was just appalled. I was incensed. So I walked around to see what was going on.
And found the other Black children's clothes were also thrown on the floor.
Then teenaged Kimberly Dawn knew that was injustice. It was wrong.
I spoke out at college campuses and rallies about this problem.
Why would someone think she had drugs hidden away at a YWCA camp just because she was a young Black girl?
I was 14. I'm like, I'm a good kid, come from a, very good family, Mystic, Connecticut. How dare you?
As a teenager, most white teenagers were dealing with pimples and peer pressure. I was dealing with picketing.
So she organized, showed up with a group outside the organization's New York headquarters during a board meeting to protest. And somehow she found herself in front of some powerful women. So your leadership started very early.
It did. And it was one of those things where at the time I didn't see it as leadership. Here I wanted to protect the vulnerable, and then I was one of the vulnerable. I would say probably on an almost daily basis, someone was questioning, trying to be in a very polite way, your credentials. At times it was credentials, at times it was age. When I look back at the pictures, I think I would ask probably some questions myself, like, now you finished medical school. I mean, like the real medical school.
Wisdom completed residency in 1985. That was 21 years after the landmark Civil Rights Act. 10 years before that, things were changing, but not that quickly.
My guidance counselor, when I said I wanted to become a doctor, my guidance counselor said there's no such thing as a woman physician, no such thing as a Negro or a colored physician.
Your guidance counselor said that to you?
My guidance counselor in high school.
This would have been the 70s.
This was right. This was about 73. I graduated in 74 out of Fitch in Groton, Connecticut.
What would you tell her now?
Oh, I'd say, guess what?
Dr. Wisdom could say, guess what? I am now the Senior Vice President of Community Health and Equity at Henry Ford Health, and was the first ever state-level Surgeon General, a post she served in under Governor Granholm.
We really began to put a face on public health, which was significant. And then I felt like being the first in that post, I wanted to be an example and hopefully a model for other states. The racial and ethnic part overlays any other of the diversity categories, so
it kind of becomes intersectionality too.
Exactly, intersectionality, which makes it doubly kind of traumatic if you're represented in more than one of those more vulnerable communities.
Research suggests diversifying medicine, where only about 4% of doctors are African American, can be helpful in creating more equitable outcomes, which in plain terms means if you get sick with certain ailments and if you're Black, you shouldn't be more likely to die. There are clear disparities between minority groups and their white counterparts in terms of outcomes. What do you think is creating the inequities, and what have you been doing to ameliorate them?
Right. Well, some of the inequities have been created a long time ago. If we truly want, the most favorable outcomes for the patients that we serve, that we need to ensure that we have employees that represent, and board members that represent the community.
If you feel connected to a community, if you feel it's your community, helping the most vulnerable in it is only natural. That's why Wisdom started the Women-Inspired Neighborhood Network, addressing this fact. Black babies in Detroit die at twice the rate of other babies in Michigan. And Dr. Wisdom alluded to the link between diverse backgrounds and unique thinking. She also founded the African American Initiative for Male Health Improvement, aimed at addressing health disparities with black men who have the lowest life expectancy of any ethnic group in the United States. Tomorrow, we speak with a doctor at the DMC about their efforts to train the next generation of physicians to tackle some of these problems. Will they be able to deal with these disparities and hopefully make some progress there?
Well, diversity could be the key, but is there an effort to recruit more people from different backgrounds?
And that's something that many health systems are doing, because it starts there in med school. If you don't have physicians who are interested in going to med school, who are minorities, especially underrepresented minorities, you can't then have doctors who can address some of these issues.
Well, Dr. Wisdom's been on the front lines.